Hello and blessings, everyone. I'm Spiritualist, Psychic Astrologer, and Medium Ray Sette. Thank you once again for offering me this opportunity to share with you my spiritual and astrological insights, and this time we're looking ahead towards the month of September 2018. I'd like to begin by just addressing a couple of the planets that have changed direction. At the end of August, on August 27th, Mars moved direct. Now, Mars moves retrograde about every 2 years, and in essence, whenever we experience a Mars retrograde, it's a time to recharge our batteries. Mars is energy. So if we have been feeling somewhat lethargic over the course of these last few weeks, now that Mars has moved direct, you can feel as though you may be experiencing a resurgence of energy. Also, certainly provided that you've allowed yourself to recharge your battery, you will experience that resurgence of energy that much more. On September 6th, Saturn moves direct. Saturn, among many things, connects with our long-term goals and objectives. Many times, if not during most of the times when Saturn's retrograde, it's an opportunity to reflect and review and allow ourselves to be redirected and re-guided regarding our long-term goals and objectives. So if you've used that Saturn retrograde period to reflect on those matters, once Saturn moves direct, and as it continues to move direct and pick up speed, you will receive greater clarity regarding all those elements. Any retrograde period, provided we've allowed ourselves to go within and connect with the elements that are connected with the planet that is going retrograde. Once it moves direct, we begin to receive that clarity. Also remember that it is specific to us personally, dependent upon where the retrograde element is placed in our chart. Remember, I always offer you, when I offer you these insights, they're an overview, somewhat of a general insight as to what we can experience during specific times. And remember that to be more specific for ourselves personally, we need to review exactly where all the elements are placed and how they connect to our personal astrological charts. On September 30th, Pluto moves direct. Pluto, again, among many things, connects with our ability to manifest. Pluto is great manifestation, that power to manifest. Pluto is said to be placed, or rather Pluto is said to be exalted in the sign of Leo, and when a planet is exalted in a certain sign, that's where it can tap into its greatest potential. As I emphasized during the last video for August, we talked about the Lion's Gate portal, the sign Leo connecting with divinity, as well as our ability to manifest. As Pluto moves direct on September 30th, we will be given opportunities to really apply and know our ability as creative divine beings, with our potential to create and manifest and apply all of those elements in our daily lives. As I said, September 30th is when Pluto moves direct. And as I've always emphasized, whenever I touch upon certain elements in these videos, as well as in my forecast, we need to remember that during the course of a month, even sometimes during the course of a day, thousands of aspects are made, but I'm only touching upon the ones that I feel are most significant and that we can really benefit from during a specific time period. Now, our next new moon is on September 9th, but I'd like to touch upon a couple of days before the new moon on September 7th. The Sun and Neptune form a full moon alignment, meaning that they are on opposite ends of the spectrum, just as on a full moon when the Sun and the Moon are at opposite ends. On September 7th, the Sun and Neptune are at opposite ends of the spectrum. And what I also am emphasizing with this is that on our new moon on September 9th, the sun and the moon. That sun Neptune opposition is very prominent on that new moon. Now, Neptune is in the sign, transiting the sign of Pisces. The opposite sign of that is Virgo. And our new moon on September 9th is in the sign of Virgo. And why I am touching upon this Neptune-Sun opposition, which will also, on the new moon, Neptune will oppose both the Sun and the Moon, is that the Virgo-Pisces polarity connects with, or rather represents, fear and faith. Virgo many times can connect with the element of fear. Pisces is that element of faith, the element of knowing. In chapter 12 of my book, The Planets Lie So Rare, I touch upon the experience of being in that place of pure knowing. And that also comes from being in a place of trust and trusting the process, trusting our creative evolutionary process. This new moon on September 9th is strongly offering us the opportunity to fortify the element of knowing and trusting in our human experience. Whenever Neptune is prominent in, whether it be a chart or anything else for that matter, because Neptune at times can be very deceptive, Neptune can be quite nebulous, it can be misleading, it can create confusion, we need to allow ourselves the opportunity to go within. As much confusion as Neptune may potentially create, Neptune will always also bring us great clarity. And the clarity offered at this new moon is the opportunity to be in the place of knowing and trusting, and what it is that we need to really rely on regarding that trusting element, the trust being, source, whatever that might be, so that we can receive clarity and certainty as to what it is that we may be experiencing in our lives personally, as well as what may be unfolding in the outer world. Many times you've heard me suggest to be aware of being in the world and not of it. In the days leading up to the new moon, especially beginning with that Neptune-Sun opposition, we strongly recommend, as much as you are comfortably able, detach from your experiences in the outer world, especially if possible, electronics, social media, because in those elements, through those experiences, we can receive much confusion as well as misdirection and deception. Whenever Neptune is prominent, as I said, we are inspired to go within. Because when we go within, when we allow ourselves to go within, that's where we receive the clarity. Because in those moments, Spirit has the full opportunity to share with us its knowing. And to do so, we must quiet the outer world so that we can be very clear with whatever it is that Spirit is sharing us that will inspire us and fully guide us on our journey. Many times I speak of the balsamic moon, which begins the cleansing, clearing, purging period that allows us to adequately prepare for the next lunar cycle. And that phase will begin on or about September 5th and 6th. So at that time, let yourself recognize what in your experiences may be creating confusion, especially in the outside world. Allow yourselves to really detach from that, just so that you may be given the opportunity to receive clarity. Remember, we're moving from a place of confusion to a place of clarity, from a place of fear to a place of trust. And this polarity, these elements are very prominent, especially in the first few weeks of September, when these alignments are so very, very much exacting. The new moon, as I emphasize, on September 9th, is in the sign of Virgo. Virgo, among many things, many elements, represents our physical well-being. So perhaps if you're not enjoying optimum health during this time, during the course of your experience, allow yourself, especially in the time leading up to this new moon, to be given clarity as to perhaps what may be corrected so that you might enjoy optimum health and well-being. We've heard many times how the element of nature contains very much healing properties, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with that because I do want to address that on September. Give me a second here. September 22nd, the sun moves into the sign of Libra. Libra is the element that more so than any of the other astrological signs represents nature and the natural world. A long time ago, I was taught by the individual who was a very close friend as well as one of my astrological astrology mentors, shared with me the knowing that we believe that the earth has a Libra rising. The rising sign in the chart connects with, or rather represents, our physical form, our physical being, our outward appearance. If we just observe the earth and nature has an innate sense of beauty and balance. Libra connects with beauty and balance. It's also powerfully healing. When the sun transits the sign of Libra, we certainly are given opportunities to recognize our innate, natural connection with nature and the outside world. Also, nature contains healing elements and healing properties, such as herbs and essential oils. Perhaps as the sun transits the sign of Libra, and on this new moon, perhaps we can allow ourselves the opportunity to entertain the thoughts to incorporate these very prominent and powerful healing elements in our daily experiences. And as I said, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I want to backtrack a little bit because on September 18th, Mars in the sign of Aquarius is forming a square alignment to Uranus and Taurus. Now, a square alignment is 90 degrees. That alignment connects with creativity. I refer to it as a creative and dynamic alignment. That square element allows us to have much energy. Squares are very energetic. A square alignment, it connects with Mars being the planet of energy. Even though at times that element can be somewhat challenging, however, as with any alignment, provided we allow ourselves to recognize the higher vibrational frequency of the alignment, we allow ourselves to connect with the greatest potential of the configuration and recognize how we can benefit most from that alignment. Now, what I'm specifically connecting with or highlighting regarding that Mars-Uranus square alignment, which is on September 18th, Mars in the sign of Aquarius and Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius connects us with abstract thinking, creative thinking, highly evolutionary, inventing, out-of-the-box thinking. If you are uncertain as to how to overcome certain challenges that you might be facing, certain obstacles, if you will, if you've been feeling frustrated as to receiving certain clarity regarding certain solutions, that Mars-Uranus square offers alternative insights, profound awakenings to that which we might be desiring to receive clarity. So perhaps on that day, if there's anything in your lives that if you're feeling frustrated, if you're not clear, if you're not certain, if you're finding that you're somewhat stagnant in your process, it's time to think outside of the box. Break the logics and the limitations of the physical world and allow yourself to receive higher insights That alignment can very well suggest flashes of profound and powerful insights regarding whatever it is that we might be questioning. So on that day, just perhaps address whatever matters that you would ask to receive clarity upon. Maybe write down those questions. Go within to your sacred self. Let yourself connect with the energy of the earth and allow yourself to receive some profound insights on that day. And you may be surprised as to what it is that you might receive. Also, it's strongly suggested that on that day, especially on the day perhaps leading up to it, which would be September 18th, as well as the day of and the day after, because Mars is energy, Uranus is at times can be very kinetic, unbalanced energy. We need to be very aware to connect with the earth and ground ourselves to the energy of the earth. I always use the analogy that just as an electrical outlet has a grounding pole so that the circuits don't short circuit or go on overload, it needs that grounding. We are very much the same. We are electrical. Mars and Uranus more so, connects with electricity. That alignment can cause us very much to short circuit, feel as though we are on overload. However, when we are anchored and grounded, that is a tremendous amount of abstract creative energy that we can harness and certainly benefit from. So receive these suggestions and allow yourself to proceed accordingly. Now, as I emphasize, on September 22nd, and it is exact at 9:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, that is the autumn equinox. That is when the sun moves into the sign of Libra. As I mentioned earlier, Libra is nature, our connection with the earth and the outside world. Libra is also the element that represents beauty because it is ruled by Venus. Observe how in many places in the United States at this time we see a burst of magnificent color in the outside world. It's almost as if Mother Nature becomes a magnificent Renaissance artist and paints these beautiful pictures in our outside world there. We are very much creative beings, and Libra is the sign of the artist and creativity. So perhaps as the sun transits through the sign of Libra, allow yourself to recognize how you very much are an artist. And it doesn't necessarily represent or suggest that we need to paint or play a musical instrument. We are creative beings. We can be artists in many, many ways. And remember, we are creative, multifaceted beings. So as the sun progresses through the sign of Libra, connect with your creativity once again. And one of the most prominent elements as we are moving through these times is for us to really recognize how we are creative, dynamic, divine beings. This is yet another opportunity to do just that. Our next full moon will be on September 24th. The moon is in the sign of Aries and the sun is in the sign of Libra. Now, the full moon chart, which is cast for the United States, the full moon is placed in the 11th house sector of the chart. That sector, among many things, represents our being of being humanitarian. That humanitarian element is very much highlighted at this time. The moon being in the sign of Aries. Aries because it begins the sign of the zodiac. It's the first sign of the zodiac. The sign of the zodiac. It is the initiator. Many times the Aries element is challenged with following through with what it sets out to accomplish. This full moon is offering us the opportunity, one, to recognize that we are all very humanitarian, and that humanitarian element is becoming and has become very prominent in many of our lives, especially those of us who are walking a very specific spiritual path as light workers, way showers. This full moon is offering us the opportunity to follow through in being that humanitarian element. Remember, we are human beings, not human doings, and we need to recognize all it is that we are being during certain times in our lives, during certain periods throughout the year. As we move through the times after the full moon, we suggest to recognize how we are being awakened to the elements of being a human being, as well as being a humanitarian, so that we can very much be of service to all those who we encounter, especially being in service to ourselves. Whenever we suggest to recognize how we certainly can be in service to others, we also have to include being in service to ourselves, offering ourselves the self-care that is necessary and sometimes required for us to fully enjoy this human experience. So as we continue moving through yet another unprecedented year through this month of September, always recognize what is necessary for self-care. We need to always allow ourselves the opportunity to care for ourselves, nurture ourselves, heal ourselves, specifically through alternative modalities that certainly connect us with higher vibrational frequencies of healing and well-being. It is strongly suggested that we allow ourselves to create this as a priority for ourselves, especially as we move through these wonderful, wonderful times. Once again, I offer you the gratitude for allowing me to share with you these insights. We are very quickly progressing through this year. November will be here very, very quickly. I've just confirmed my travel for October as well as November. I will be returning to the mystical moon. I believe my first day meeting with clients will be Monday, November 12th. I will be confirming my dates with Lori. We're also going to offer a few other things as well as, in addition to my individual sessions. So until then, until we meet again, care for yourselves, care for one another. Always stay in the light and in a place of love. Namaste.